defensive back, Bryant McFadden. B-Mac, just as we think things might slow down a little bit in this wild offseason, we get what could be, maybe the biggest move of the offseason to this point.
I mean, I literally thought Davante Adams leaving Green Bay to go to the Raiders was the biggest news. I thought Tom Brady coming back to the NFL was the biggest news. I thought Aaron Rodgers was the biggest news, but clearly the NFL, they stay winning. The offseason has been spectacular, has been the most impressive offseason I can remember. And this was unexpected big-time news today. Seeing what happened with Kansas City, Chris, allowing one of the more iconic individuals when it comes to speed to just slip away and pretty much, I understand they got 5 picks in return, but I think the Dolphins kind of got off scot-free when you look at what they gave up and in return, the player that they're getting to their organization.
So as a defensive back, B-Mac, you won 2 Super Bowl championships. You know how to cover a good wide receiver. But when you have guys with the speed of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on the field at the same time, what kind of problems is that going to pose for opposing defenses?
A fear factor. Now, we saw how successful Jalen Waddle was a year ago, right? A lot of his damage came from the operation of swing passes and screens and things like that. But we know he can create separation and he can get down the football field. But when you add a guy like Tyreek Hill, who can open the window of opportunities for anyone else in the passing game, now you have to hold your breath. I mean, you have arguably 2-4-2 guys in the same offense. And don't forget some of the other additions they added. They added an experienced up-and-coming wide receiver in Cedric Wilson from the Dallas Cowboys. They signed Chase Edmonds in the backfield. They also signed a speedster in Raheem Mostert. The issue with him has been health, but when he has been on the football field, he's been an explosive player as well. And I know when you look at some of the moves that we've seen throughout the entire offseason, to say the least, they have all been outstanding, marvelous. But this move today, it puts the Miami Dolphins in the league of their own. They might be the most feared offense when it comes to speed in the entire NFL. But get this, though, Chris. It puts more pressure on Tua Tagovailoa. He has to deliver. No excuses anymore. Remember how outstanding he was at Alabama with all the speed he had, all the deep passes he was able to complete. The Dolphins organization, they're expecting the same type of success coming from their quarterback.
B-Mac, I just noticed you have that teal tie on. Did you put that on after the news broke, or was that what you woke up wearing today?
No, I put it on after the news broke because I felt like it was appropriate. And when you look at the money that Tyreek Hill is getting, I wanted to look like I was getting a little bit of money as well, even though I'm not. I just wanted to fit the occasion. He's getting $30 million per year, Chris. $30 million per year in South Florida. Think about that.
No state income tax, as you know, B-Mac, as a native Floridian who no longer lives in Florida. Let's go to what you were able to do as a defensive back in the NFL, winning the 2 Super Bowls. Right now, we've got 2 guys on this team now, on Miami, that run, as you mentioned, 4.2 40s. Have you ever had to defend someone as fast as Tyreek Hill?
Yo, Mike Wallace, during my time in Pittsburgh, Mike Wallace was fast. Lord have mercy. Mike Wallace was ugly fast. He had an ugly form, but man, he would get up on your toes so fast. I never played against Tyreek Hill, but I can tell you this much. Just watching Tyreek Hill from my living room, I'm afraid of his speed. So to answer your question, no. I played against Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson was fast, super fast. Mike Wallace, super fast. But something about Tyreek Hill, he does everything fast. He even walks fast. I mean, anytime he catches a quick pass, a smoke pass, I mean, just his jukes are super fast. So me personally, this will be an entertaining year. It should be an entertaining year for the Miami Dolphins. Oh, don't forget about the offensive line additions as well. Connor Williams from the Dallas Cowboys, Teron Armstead, the most coveted tackle that was available via free agency for the New Orleans Saints. They're spending a lot of money in the right places. And I can tell you this much, the Dolphins, they're in win now mode. Making this type of move, it sends a signal to the entire NFL, especially the AFC East. We're coming. We're expecting to win right now. So I thought this was Buffalo division to run with. You still like Buffalo's chances. No, don't get me wrong, but the Dolphins just made things a little more interesting today.
And the Caesar Sportsbook has updated the odds for the Miami Dolphins. They went from 70-1 to win it all to 40-1. So still a long shot to win it all. But in the division, they go from plus 675 to 4-1 to win the AFC East.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, it sounds about right. But like I said, though, Chris, it puts so much pressure on Tua Tagovailoa. Remember, they had concerns about, is he the face of the franchise? Can he be a franchise quarterback? He has to deliver now. All the moves they made have mostly been on the offensive side. The running back position brought in 2 proven guys, especially when they're healthy. Look at the wide receiver position, adding Tyreek Hill. Look at the offensive line additions. Everything has been targeted to their quarterback, trying to make life easier for Tua Tagovailoa. And he has to come through on his end of the bargain. If they don't, it would be a disappointing year. But I can tell you this much on paper. Like I said, adding Tyreek Hill, along with Jalen Waddle, along with Cedric Wilson, along with Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, and don't forget Gesicki, he's back as well. Man, this could be the most feared offense in the National Football League when you're looking at speed.
Just have to get them the ball, right? Tua Tagovailoa or Teddy Bridgewater, somebody's going to have to get it done. No more excuses in Miami under new head coach Mike McDaniel, who is going to be having a lot of toys to play with on that offense. BMAC says probably most feared offense now when you factor in Tyreek Hill teaming with Jalen Waddle, 2 of the fastest guys in the NFL, maybe the fastest wide receiver duo of all time. BMAC has a great podcast, All Things Covered, with his cousin, Patrick Peterson, Vikings cornerback. See where he ends up this offseason. Right now, a free agent. Tyreek Hill moving to Miami to team up with Jalen Waddle, forming probably the fastest duo at wide receiver in NFL history. There's what the Chiefs get. They get 3 picks in this upcoming NFL draft, a 1st, 2nd, and 4th, and then 2 more late-round picks in next year's draft, a 4th and a 6th. Let's bring in Pete Prisco. Pete, how about this duo now that Tua has in Miami? If it is indeed Tua Tagovailoa as a starting quarterback, very few excuses with the speed they're going to have at receiver, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Well, not just that. Remember, they signed Teron Armstead to play left tackle. And so there are no excuses for Tua. This is all about making it the best possible scenario for him to succeed. There are a lot of questions about Tua, but going out and getting Tyreek Hill and pairing him with Jalen Waddle, you're right. Tyreek Hill does things that nobody else in this league does. He makes defensive backs tremble when they line up across from him in one-on-one situations. He makes defensive coordinators change the way they call defenses. That speed puts the fear of God in defensive backs. And I'll tell you what, getting him and pairing him with Waddle is outstanding for the Miami Dolphins. I don't think they really gave up a lot to go get him. I thought it would be more. This is a good move for the Miami Dolphins. They better hope like heck that Tua becomes the player they think he can become.
Well, you tweeted that this is not going to make Tua magically a better quarterback. What do you think this will do for him?
Well, the tools are there, the players are there, everything is there. It's on him. And you know, that's what you kept hearing out of Miami. It was all about him. His progress was stunted by himself. It took him a little while to get the playbook going. It took him a little while to adjust to working the way they work in the NFL. And so I think it's about him. They've set the table for him. Now it's time for him to move on in and take the cutlery set and cut up the meat and start eating that filet mignon, because it's all there. The table's set. Go do it. It's his time now. If he doesn't do it, Teddy Bridgewater will play at some point this season, and then they will probably look to get a new long-term quarterback next year.
All right, if you're a Chiefs fan, how are you feeling right now?
You're not happy about this. This changes the whole dynamic of their offense. I've always said it's great to have Kelsey in the middle of the field. He's one of the all-time greatest tight ends in football. But it changes the way you play him now because you don't have that speed element outside. And they got creative with Tyreek Hill. I mean, there's so many different ways to get him the football. And I just think this might be a mistake on the part of the Chiefs. I'm not sitting here saying, okay, you know, you pay him $30 million a year, which the Dolphins are going to do. That's an easy thing to for any team to bite off. But this guy is different. He changes the way defensive coordinators call their games because of that speed. And so I don't like this move for the Chiefs. when you look at the salary, you can sit there and say, yeah, I kind of understand it. It's a deep receiver class. There's some speedy guys in this class, but I'm not real thrilled with this for the Kansas City Chiefs.
How is this going to change things for Patrick Mahomes no longer having, Travis Kelce's his security blanket, still has him. But Tyreek Hill was the guy that opened everything up and made the huge play in the Super Bowl that got him his ring as well.
Yeah, it's going to change things, but look, here's what they do. Now they have that first-round pick. They come back into the draft, and they get some receivers. There are a lot of receivers in this draft. How good would Jameson Williams look in a Chiefs uniform? And they would probably be in a situation to be patient with him. And, he's the best receiver in this draft class in my mind, but he got hurt. And so they could take a receiver and, use him midway through the season and get him going with Patrick Mahomes. So I think they can, fill in the blanks with some guys for the time being. But I think they're going to draft a couple of guys, and they've been good at developing and creating these receivers. So I think it's going to be an opportunity for, that front office to be tested to find themselves two speed guys, or at least one speed guy and another guy, to really help that offense.
Wow, another big move involving the AFC West. All the other teams adding, the Chiefs, the favorite, subtracting. Tyreek Hill going to Miami. Pete Prisco with us here as we cover the breaking news on CBS Sports HQ. They'll have an emergency podcast up shortly on the Pick 6 podcast with Will Brinson.
About this. We're going to get to the draft here in a second for each of these teams, but just your reaction to this deal going down and so quickly, too.
Yeah, the speed at which this stuff is happening is sort of hard to wrap your brain around. You can't get too far from the old camera here because something's going to happen that you got to show up for. And I don't wear this all the time, Amanda, so I got in and out of this outfit about 4 times. Thank you, Tyreek Hill, for that. But it's crazy. Great news for the Dolphins. Great news for Tua Tagovailoa, who perhaps is now nervous with all the riches that he has at his disposal, knowing that he has to sort of put up or shut up. And you wonder what Patrick Mahomes is thinking right now and how much of a lead he had in to knowing that Tyreek Hill wanted to leave and would end up elsewhere, and what his wide receiving core / tight end group was going to look like now in a division that's arguably the best division in the NFL, with so many good quarterbacks, so many good playmakers. Guys like Devontae Adams has arrived in Las Vegas. Khalil Mack has arrived for the Chargers on the other side of the football, getting after Patrick Mahomes. So a lot of moving parts. And free agency started like 8 days ago. It feels like it was 80 years ago, but this is the latest. I would imagine something's going to happen in a few more hours, and we'll talk again soon then.
All right, let's talk about what this means for the draft, and let's start with the Chiefs because they now have an additional first-round pick. They're picking at 29 and 30 now. Walk me through in your head and the little bit that you've had to think about this, what they may do with those picks, and you got to be curious if one of them is going to be a wide receiver.
Right. And, we usually talk about the Packers, who have now 2 first-round picks, and how many receivers they're going to take in the first round. And, we joke that it might be 2. You sort of feel the same way with the Chiefs. But here's what's interesting to me. And we know that the Jets were also interested in getting Tyreek Hill. And I wondered if Kansas City would be able to get that 10th overall pick out from under New York. Because if so, then you can get a guy like Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State, or a Drake London out of USC. Guys that make sense at 10 overall and help your team immediately. At 29 and 30, those guys will be long gone. Perhaps if Chris Olave is there. Or here's an idea, and Pete Prisco actually mentioned this earlier in his segment. Jameson Williams out of Alabama. He suffered that ACL injury in the SEC in the championship game against Georgia, and he's going to be out probably in October, maybe even into November. But he is one of the best wide receivers in this draft class, so he makes some sense there. And they could circle back at 30, and they'll probably target an edge rusher. And again, you could go with a guy who unfortunately was injured recently, David Ajabo, if you want to go that route. But they have 6 picks in the first 3 rounds, and they're going to get at least 2 wide receivers, I would imagine. One has to come early in the first round. Maybe they package some of those picks to move up to get a Garrett Wilson type or a Drake London type, or stay pat and get a Jameson Williams, and then circle back in rounds 2 or 3 and pick up some more players. A guy like Sky Moore out of Western Michigan would be a name to keep an eye on. A Jalen Tolbert's a deep threat out of South Alabama as well. But to your point, I feel like at least 2 wide receivers in the first 3 rounds with those 6 picks have to be on the to-do list for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
6 picks for the Chiefs in the first 3 rounds. When it comes to the Dolphins, that is by far not the case anymore. I think you said 3rd, 4th, 5, 7, 7. Walk me through the impact of this trade when it comes to the Dolphins in the draft.
Yeah, so some folks think that the Dolphins gave up too much. I don't, and it's not necessarily the less need LA Rams blueprint. It's just a function of them building a team, and they've done a remarkable job this offseason, whether it's adding those running backs and Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert, whether it's adding the offensive linemen that they added and Teron Armstead and Connor Williams. Mike Gesicki is back. So, again, as I said, Tua's out of excuses, and here you can see all the free agents that they've signed, and they've lost some of these draft picks from trading up and down in recent years along the way. I think they have to be ecstatic with this draft haul. Okay, you don't get your first, second, and third round picks, and this is what you get. I think you sign up for that all day long. So you have to be happy with where you are. They need some help perhaps at off-ball linebacker. You can find that at the bottom of round 3. Perhaps along the offensive line, which is a forever search, but they added 2 guys in free agency that we mentioned, and maybe a defensive lineman. And again, you can get those guys on day 3. All that said, there's no reason that the Dolphins shouldn't be the favorites or one of the favorites to make some noise in the AFC East. Obviously, that's going to go through Buffalo, but I would imagine the Bills, who are historically worried about the Patriots, now suddenly have to focus their attention on South Florida. And again, I'll say it for like the 5th time, it all comes down to Tua Tagovailoa. He has to play at that Alabama level to give the Dolphins a legitimate chance to be a playoff team. Otherwise, a year from now, we'll be talking about a quarterback in Miami.
We'll see if he can pull a Josh Allen and do that in his 3rd year. Let's talk about Super Bowl odds. You talked about the division, though. So the Dolphins were plus 7,000. They are now plus 4,000 to win the Super Bowl. Some other teams in that range, Vikings, Patriots. What do you think about the Dolphins Super Bowl odds now?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about Tua. I keep saying that, but you said they're in the range of the Patriots. I got to go with my guy McCorkle Jones if we're going to be in that range and give me someone to pick. But look, if Tua can play with some composure, hit his open receivers, and do it on time without being pressured, then you have to like his chances of getting this team to the playoffs. I think that's step one. The Super Bowl feels like a stretch right now, but, you know, we're in March. A lot of things can certainly change, and I think having someone like Tyreek Hill, who is the most athletic and the fastest player in the NFL, certainly helps your chances here. That said, the Bills, the Patriots are still ahead of the Dolphins, even just by a little bit, and as we get through, obviously, to training camp and all that, these things will certainly change. I do feel bad for Jets fans who probably thought they had a chance at Tyreek Hill and a game changer for Zach Wilson, and now they remain the Jets.
Okay, let's talk about the Chiefs. No Tyreek Hill. We'll see what they do in the draft. 6 picks. First 3 rounds, we've seen some crazy trades go down. So the Chiefs right now sitting at plus 900 behind the Bills and the Bucs. We've been trying to figure out, I think, Ryan, right when the season ended, they were the betting favorite. That was before Tom Brady announced that he was coming back. What do you think about the Chiefs' odds right now to win the Super Bowl?
The problem is, and the Packers are right behind them at a plus 1,100. The problem for the Chiefs is that they're in a conference where there are 8 or 9, 10 teams that are going to be really, really good, whereas the Green Bay in the NFC, there's only a handful of teams. So I still love Andy Reid. I still love Patrick Mahomes. I think that defense is going to get better. The offensive line sort of held up with the duct tape, but it all comes down to Travis Kelce's a year older. He's in his 30s now. Clyde Edwards-Helaire hasn't quite clicked yet as that former first-round pick, and they don't have any wide receivers named Tyreek Hill. They lost Byron Pringle. They signed Juju Smith-Schuster, which would be a great compliment to Tyreek Hill, but again, he's no longer there. So I think it's going to come down to any guys they can find in free agency that are remaining at wide receiver, and there aren't a ton. Maybe a Jarvis Landry comes in, again, as a complimentary player, and then you have to crush the draft at wide receiver, because in that division, which is the toughest, in that conference, which is the toughest, it's a lot of work to do for Patrick Mahomes now that the most dangerous player in football is playing in South Florida.
And the Bills did jump up when they landed Von Miller. All right, Ryan Wilson, good luck on your next mock draft. We'll see what happens between now and then, because there's been so much happening. Pick 6 podcast, Ryan Wilson a part of that, along with Will Brinson and crew. Check it out for an emergency pod having to do with Tyreek Hill, now headed to the Dolphins. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.